today. On Saturday night, a card will go down at the UFC Apex, UFC Vegas 87 to be more exact. But the one thing that we can't be exact about is how excited fans are for this card. Sure, there's a few names on here that you recognize. Sure, there's a few prospects that you want to see. But the reality of the situation is, does UFC Apex 87 deliver? We're going to find out this today and much, much more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt. We here to cover another UFC Vegas Apex card. This is UFC Vegas 87. Whew. All right. So, no, look, man, it is what it is. But when you're looking at these Apex cards, as I just stated, they're starting to pop up with names on there or prospects that you want to see, but just not the matchups or the fights that you're interested in. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, we're going to dive into it because it is it is a UFC card. We are hardcore fans, and we want to see somebody get their brains beat out on a Saturday night. So I'm not complaining. Let's start with the main event. We're in the main event. We have Jairzinho Rozenstruik stepping in there against Shamil Gaziev. Man, in this fight, I'm going to go along with Gaziev. Now, here's the thing. I feel like Rozenstruik at this point in his career, while he's still a great opponent, while he's still a talented fighter, at least for the heavyweight division, I just feel like I can't really get a read or a gauge on Rozenstruik himself. Like, I don't really know. I'm assuming he still wants to be the heavyweight champion. I'm assuming he's still chasing that dream. But he's just a strange fighter in the sense you don't get a read off of him. The vibe that you kind of get from him is that he's just going through the motions. He's going through the paces. He gets another fight that's been signed, you know, that the UFC is providing with, and he's going to go out there and he's going to do his job. But you don't really get the vibe that he's going out there to prove a point or to put on a big show so he gets noticed, so he could possibly get thrown into, something closer to a titles fight, because he definitely ain't getting thrown into a title fight. But you don't really get those vibes from Rozenstruik. You just get the vibes that he's a guy that's going to go out there, he's got another fight signed, he's going to go out there and he's going to collect another check. Whether he wins or loses. Of course, he doesn't want to lose, but you just don't get a ton of vibes from Rozenstruik that, I'm trying to go out here and do damage and, I'm coming for that title shot. You know what I'm saying? You don't get that. With that being said, I'm not saying that Gaziev gives you that, but Gaziev is undefeated right now in the UFC heavyweight division, and I can't say they're strapping a rocket to him, but with what the cards that were being dealt, this is the fight. And I'm going along with Gaziev to go out there and get the win. I think definitely his best road to getting the win is he's going to need to go out there, and if he can't get the fight to the ground early on, he needs to push Rozenstruik up against the cage, hold him up against the cage, and wear him out. Like, tire him out. Do a lot of wrist grappling to keep Rozenstruik from getting his arms, free, and keep him from getting underhooks. Hold him up against the cage. Hit him with those famous Conor McGregor shoulder strikes. You know what I'm saying? Do a little bit of dirty boxing, tire him out a little bit, then eventually lock the hands and take him down to the floor. And then from there, try to hold the man down and do work. That's definitely the game plan to get the win over Rosenstrike. You don't want to give Rosenstrike any room to breathe or any room, more importantly, to strike. Because if you give him room and time for his striking, eventually he will figure out a way to find your chin. You know, it might take 3 rounds, could take 4 rounds, but eventually he will find a way to find your chin. So, if I was Gaziev, that would be the game plan I would implement. Try to tire the man out, get him on the ground, and then impose yourself from there. But I mean, that's it. You know, that's the main event. Gaziev versus Rosenstrike. I got Gaziev. Let's move on to the co-main event. In the co-main event, we have Victor Petrino stepping in the octagon with Tyson Pedro. Man, once again, another strange fight. I'm going to go along with Victor Petrino to get the win, but honestly, it wouldn't shock me if he slips a little bit in the first round and Tyson catches him and stops him. You know, Tyson Pedro's got the kind of power that, you know, when he lands with a shot, most of the time guys drop. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, you know, if the guy is instantly knocked out, he's dropping to the ground, and Tyson's going to try to, you know, get to side control or get to mount and finish him off from there. You know, that's just what it is. But Tyson Pedro is so sometimey. You know what I'm saying? You never really know what version of him is going to show up. You never really, I mean, he always takes his fights and his training, I believe, seriously. Sometimes he comes in with, with injuries, and it kind of hinders his performance. But, I mean, he's a weird guy at this point in his career to call. You know what I'm saying? You just don't really know what version of Tyson is going to show up. So I'm going to go along with Victor Petrino to go out there and get the win. However, if one of the better versions of Tyson Pedro shows up, it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't go out there and get the win. But a lot of the time, you know, it's almost like at this stage in his career, he's entering that get or get got portion of his career. So either he's going to get the guy out of there quickly and early, or he's going to get got because he's going to go out there, blow his wad, get tired. Victor Petrino's going to eventually take him to the ground and submit him. So that's kind of the way I see this playing out. As well as Victor can definitely crack as well. You know what I'm saying? In the words of Joe Rogan, he could definitely starch him. Starch him. As well as, are they still allowing these guys to use tie cups? Sorry, when I brought up Joe Rogan, I just wanted to do that. Nevertheless, I'm going along with Victor Petrino to get the win. As we move on, we have Alex Perez stepping in the octagon with Muhammad Mokaev. Well, I'm going along with Muhammad Mokaev on this one. Shocking, I know. So I'm going along with Muhammad Mokaev on this one. Alex Perez is definitely a good fighter, definitely a good fighter in the flyweight division. But I mean, at this point, you know, you can't bet against Mokaev. It's hard to bet against him comfortably because generally in his fights, he makes a ton of mistakes. Generally in a Mokaev fight, the first round he goes out there and he looks like a monster. The second round he tends to make some mistakes. I don't know if he's trying to save his energy possibly that he might need in the third round. Usually in the second round, it's almost like he kind of stalls out. And so you're seeing a battle between him stalling and his opponent trying to capitalize on the fact that he's stalling. And then usually in the third round, by hook or by crook, he's going to go out there and get a finish. So it's like when you bet on him, you're betting on him and you're like, yeah, Muhammad, yeah, this is great. Oh, okay, so he's looking good first round. Okay, we're looking good second round. Oh, I'm not sure what happened. He might be tired. I don't know. He's thrown the game plan out the window. I don't know what's happening. Then the third round, he's like, "Don't worry, my brother," and he goes out there as I hit the microphone, and he submits the guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to. He's a hard one to call, but I'm going along with Mokaev to get the win. He's definitely who the UFC is still propping up in that division to eventually fight for the title. So, got no reason to believe that he won't go out there and beat Perez. Let's move on. Next, we have Bekzat Almaikhan stepping in there with Umar Nurmagomedov. Well, no secret in this one, I got Umar. There's no reason to believe otherwise. Umar definitely, as long as he doesn't slip on the banana peel somewhere along the way, he's definitely going to be the next bantamweight champion. Or maybe I should say he's definitely going to be a bantamweight champion. It's just a matter of who's he going to fight for the belt. Now, the real question is, when I'm thinking about this division, because it's like, no doubt, if he steps in there with Sean O'Malley, it's a wrap for Sean O'Malley. So that's just a given. But with that being said, if Merab captures the bantamweight championship from O'Malley, now we've got a total different fight on our hands between Umar and Merab. That would be, look here, sneaky, tricky. That would be a fight that your boy would be willing to see. That would be one I would definitely be front and center to see. But in the meantime, I got Umar to go out there and get the win, of course. Let's move on. Next, we have Matt Schnell stepping in there against Steve Erceg. I got Steve Erceg. Matt Schnell is definitely a decent fighter. I wouldn't say he's a good fighter. He's a decent fighter, but, I kind of feel like he kind of has a little bit of a low fight IQ, so generally, for parts of the fight that he looks good, just wait. You know what I'm saying? Just wait a couple of minutes, and Matt Schnell's going to come through for you and make some mistakes and end up losing the fight. So in this one, I got Steve Erceg to go out there and get the win. Next, we have Eric Anders versus Jamie Pickett. I've got Eric Anders. Let's move on. Next, we have Ayman Sahabi stepping in there against Javed Basharat. Okay, so first off, I'm going to say I'm not going to cover all of these fights because, come on. We're not doing that. But with this fight, this is the fight that I'm definitely anxious to see. Not for Ariel Helwani / Zahabi to fight, but because I'm a huge Basharat fan. I'm a fan of both of the Basharat brothers. Definitely for Javed. He's definitely, in my opinion, he's going to be a contender for the title at some point in bantamweight. I'm not saying he's going to win the title, but he just seems to be very poised in his fights. He always goes in with a good game plan. He sticks to the game plan. He is great grappling, great wrestling, great grappling and wrestling defense. And he's the type of a striker. I wouldn't say he's a savage striker or anything. He's a very thoughtful striker in the sense his striking is very thought out. It's very game planned. It's very strategic. So with a fighter like that, as long as he can continue to cruise forward and not get injuries or not have anything like that derail him, for sure I see him being a contender for the Bantamweight Championship eventually. It's not going to be as quickly as Umar, or definitely not as quick as Merab, who might get the next shot. But still, I feel like Javed Basharat will eventually fight for the Bantamweight Championship, as long as he doesn't get any crazy injuries or something that's going to cause like a long hiatus in the sport or anything. With that being said, I got him to go out there and get the win against Ariel Helwani. Ayman Zahabi. So, yeah, going along with Basharat to get the win there. Next, we have Christian Leroy Duncan stepping in the octagon with Claudio Ribeiro. For this one, I'm going to go along with Christian Leroy Duncan. However, Ribeiro is the kind of fighter that a lot of people would easily overlook. He's a fun guy. He comes out with a lot of energy. He comes out to the octagon hyped up and ready to fight. But his primary skill is he's got this crazy knockout power. When he hits you like a small Volvo. You know what I'm saying? If you were crossing the street and you got hit by a small Volvo, look again. It could have been a punch from Ribeiro. You know what I'm talking about? With that being said, he's a sneaky fighter in that sense, because he fights a lot of guys that I feel like have more talent than him, but he's just got that power, man. If he catches you with the shot, you know, if it doesn't wobble you or break you to the ground, you know, it's gonna put you under. You know what I'm talking about? You get ready to take a long nap with no melatonin. You know what I'm talking about? With that being said, I think Christian Leroy Duncan is still the superior striker, the superior stand-up fighter. I think he goes in there with a pretty good game plan. You know, we've seen him take one loss in his UFC career, but I definitely think that he is still someone that could eventually be a contender. So I'm going to go along with Christian Leroy Duncan to go out there and get the win over Ribeiro. Outside of that, we have Ludwig Klein stepping in there with AJ Cunningham. I'm going along with Ludwig Klein. This looks like a fight to me that the UFC set up to try to get Klein a win. So that's what that is. I know there's a couple other fights in the card, but me and you both will check them out as they happen. So that's that. That is UFC Vegas 87 in all of its glory. Again, I mean, you got Muhammad Makayev fighting, you got Umar fighting, you know. So you got a couple of fights, you know, a couple of fighters, I should say, that you're kind of wondering, you know, where they're going to go in the UFC lineup as they move forward, but not a lot on this card, you know what I'm saying? It's probably going to be a tough hang. I'm not going to lie to y'all. It's probably going to be a tough hang. You're probably going to need some party favors to make it through this card. You know, a little drinky drink. You know what I'm talking about. You probably going to have to be lit to make it through this one, but nevertheless, we're going to make it through. Outside of that, man, not a ton going on this week in mixed martial arts, so to speak. Ariel did Boxing Day on Monday, so just most of his guests on Monday were like Eddie Hearn, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia. All of these people were chirping, making a lot of noise. Ryan Garcia taking shots at Sean O'Malley, saying he would like to fight him in a boxing match. Sean O'Malley should definitely take that fight for the money, but not if he's expecting to win. And I'm not saying that Ryan Garcia is the greatest boxer, but Sean O'Malley should take that fight for the money, not for the win, because the win probably won't come. Nevertheless, we'll see who's on the mixed martial arts hour, the MMA hour today. See who old Ariel brings on. Outside of that, not a ton going on. You know, as far as headlines, you know, still barely a little bit of headlines from Bellator versus PFL, in which they're still talking about how they ambushed John Jones and basically ambushed him about the Francis Ngannou fight, and were basically like, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but you know you want to fight Francis Ngannou, right? You know you really want to fight him, right? You know that we're not the company that's stopping that from happening. It's your company, John. What do you have to say about this? And John Jones, being John Jones, didn't know what to say, didn't know what to comment, was extremely uncomfortable, but he powered through as we're going to through UFC Vegas 87. It's going to be a rough power, but we're going to power through. Nevertheless, there's not a ton going on, as you might have already seen. Bellator versus PFL wasn't the biggest success, so not a ton of headlines coming out of that this week. Imagine that. Nevertheless, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for this video, and we're just going to band together. We're going to come together on this Saturday night, and we're going to try to get through UFC Vegas 87. So again, I appreciate you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how trash UFC Vegas 87 is. Let me know how big of a dumpster fire the card is. And I do want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.